real quick. I played high school football in South Dallas in the early 90s, and I would get really amped up before the games. While my teammates were listening to whatever was popular back in the early 90s, like Motley Crue, Poison, Boyz II Men, I don't know, I couldn't do that because I got too worked up. So what I did is I listened to the theme song to the Monkees. Now, I realize there are a lot of people in the room that don't know the theme song to the Monkees. If you're older or seasoned, you do. Hey, hey, we're the Monkees. People say we monkey around. We're too busy singing to put anybody down. Hey, hey, we're the Monkees. Okay, theme song to the Monkees. That would calm me down and kind of chill me out. And I tell you that story to say this. Coming into this TEDx event, I wasn't nervous. But I woke up at 4:45 this morning and grabbed my phone and started watching TED Talks. I watched Brene Brown. I watched Tim Urban. I watched Drew Tarvin, the most watched TEDx talk from Texas A&M University. 11 million people have seen this talk. Since 4:45 this morning, I've been singing the theme song to the Monkees in my head. Yes. Guys, thank you so much for having me. So thrilled to be here. I'm excited to be here because short of being a father, I love being a daddy. Short of being a father, this is my favorite thing to do. I love to stand in front of a group of people, generate hope, motivate the audience to take inspired action, and remind you guys to make the important things important. And that's my message. I don't hide it to the end. There's not a drop the mic moment. I'm like, see you later. No, here it is. Make the important things important. Real quick. My biggest fear, you guys leave TEDx today and you're back home and you're talking to your significant other, maybe your boyfriend, girlfriend, spouse, maybe you're on the phone with mom and dad. You're like, oh, the conference was so good. The first speaker was really good. He was this handsome, bald man in a Joseph A. Banks sports coat, and the person you're talking to says, what did he talk about? And you can't remember. That's my biggest fear. I'm terrified of that. So here it is. Make the important things important. Now, it hasn't always been my message. I've stood in front of many groups and said, live on purpose. I've stood in front of other groups and reminded them that life is short, life is precious, we need to act accordingly. I have even stood in front of groups and told them how a pea green dog in Muleshoe, Texas saved my life. Real quick, let me tell you that story. And let me say this. If I say real quick, I know I've done it a couple times already. If I say real quick, I'm going to go down a rabbit hole. I say real quick, I'm going to chase squirrels, but you have my promise, I'm going to bring it back. I promise, okay? So real quick, pea green dog, Muleshoe, Texas. My dad grew up in Muleshoe. It's in the Texas Panhandle. He was a hooligan. He ran around with a bunch of other hooligans. They found some pea green paint. This is a Cliff Notes version of the story, by the way. Found some pea green paint, decided, hey, it's going to be a good idea if we go paint the principal's car pea green. So they did. While they're doing this, the principal's ferocious dog comes from around the corner of the car. They paint the dog pea green. He runs up to the porch, rolls around. So my dad and his hooligan friends painted the car, the dog, and indirectly the house or the porch pea green. This punched a one-way ticket for my father to military school. So how did it save my life? My dad, shout out to Stan Myers, will freely admit that if he was not sent to New Mexico Military Institute, he would either be dead or in jail, and guess who wouldn't be here? This guy saved my life. I digress. Make the important things important. I have one disclaimer before we really get into it today. I know what you're thinking. You're only going to be up there 15 more minutes. We need a disclaimer on this speech? Yes, you do. This is important. Here is the disclaimer. I need every single person in this room to admit that you live a blessed life. Not a perfect life, not a life free of struggles and challenges, but a blessed life. Let me make some assumptions real quick. Everybody in here woke up with food in the refrigerator, right? You don't have to answer, it's rhetorical. You did, I know you did. Everybody got shoes on. It's hard for me to see in the theater with the lights, but everybody's got shoes on probably, right? Everybody in the room, at least one person in this world loves or cares about you, at least one. All blessings. But we take those blessings and blessings like those for granted. And the reason why I bring that up right now is because we do live a blessed life when we do need to pull ourselves out of a rut, when we do need to get back on track, when we need to stop a losing streak. We don't have to make wholesale changes. We can make little tweaks here and little tweaks there. We don't have to drive the car off the road, through the ditch, through the field, into the river. Little tweaks here, little tweaks there. because we live a blessed life. What I need to do now is I need to share part of my story. I need to share part of my story because I love story. Everything that I do revolves around story because story is so powerful. Story is what differentiates every single person in this room. Real quick. I'm going to say something that's going to make some of you feel uncomfortable. It's going to make you feel uncomfortable because it's the truth. You are a masterpiece. You are one of a kind, and you are beautiful. When they made you, the mold was broken. There never has been, and there never will be in the history of forever another you. Our story celebrates that rarity and that beauty. If I've said it once, I've said it 1,000 times. You cannot live a bold, adventurous, and intentional life until you embrace your story. That's the good, that's the bad, and that's the ugly. So I couldn't stand up here in this big red circle and not share part of my story. I wouldn't be walking the walk. I'd just be talking the talk. So here's a snapshot of my story. I grew up in South Dallas, Duncanville, Texas to be exact. 2 loving parents. Shout out again to Stan Myers and shout out to Kay Myers. After I left Duncanville, I went to college at Midwestern State University in Wichita Falls, Texas. I was a long-haired narcissistic journalism major who wrote for the school newspaper. I wrote a weekly column called A Different Perspective, and I wrote about really important things like showering in the dark, fishing shows, and what if I changed my name from Drew Myers to Love Myers? What would that look like? Real hard-hitting journalism, right? The point of the column was to get people to think differently. And I fell in love with that idea. Now, that shows up again later in my life. But after I graduated from Midwestern, I had the distinction of having 11 jobs in 11 years. Let me say that again for the people in the back. 11 jobs in 11 years. My dad told me, if you're not happy with what you're doing, go do something else. Life is too short. So I wrapped my arms around that and squeezed real tight. I worked in newspapers. That's what I went to school for. I was a football coach just down the road at Blinn College in Brenham, Texas. And then I got the opportunity of a lifetime. I was hired as the recruiting coordinator at a major Division I school. And I was told not to do this from the stage, but I have to. Go Frogs. I was hired at TCU on their football staff. Worked my way up into athletic administration, got bored doing that, started my own business. That business failed. Then I worked my way back into the real world, got into real estate, realized that wasn't my jam. But they moved a radio station to Glen Rose, Texas, where I live now. And I got the opportunity to be on the morning show there, which led to my own show on Sunday night, which led to my podcast, which led to my brand growing. And that brand revolved around storytelling and inspiration. Rewind. Those 11 jobs in 11 years, I started to write again. It was probably between job 3 and 4, I'm thinking. I wrote a blog. And on this blog, I wrote about things that I knew and things that I loved. I wrote about being newly married. I wrote about buying my first house. I wrote about my dog. Shout out to Captain Augustus McCrae. I wrote about the Texas Rangers. I love the Texas Rangers. I wrote about Texas country music. I love Texas country music. I wrote about running, just things that I knew or things that were near and dear to my heart. And 3 people read the blog. I'm not even kidding around. 3 people. My mom, one of my sisters, not even both of my sisters, one of my sisters, and a girl named Amy Bennett. And I knew Amy read the blog because she sent me an email. And that email said, hey, I think you should do this and write about it on your blog. And that thing was to make a list of 101 things to do in 1,001 days. Again, 101 things, 1,001 days. And I thought, that sounds stupid. Delete. But Amy Bennett's tough. She stayed on me. Kept pushing. Her idea, make a list, mark stuff off, write about it on the blog. She broke me down, so I finally did it. Started to brainstorm. If I had a list of 101 things to do in 1,001 days, what might be on there? 5 things turned into 10 things, turned into 50 things, and before I knew it, I had a list of 101 things to do in 1,001 days. Some of those things included little things like eat a double scoop of ice cream, which I had never done for whatever reason. Sell something on Craigslist. There were big ticket items, summit a 14,000-foot mountain in Colorado. Throw out a first pitch at a Major League Baseball game, meet the president, things like that. So small things, big things, and then I started marking stuff off. I did sell something on Craigslist. It was a cast iron sink. I went to a wine tasting. I had never done that. I ate lobster for the first time. And then I wrote about it on my blog. And people started to read my blog. But the cool part is other people started making lists of their own. Two of those people are my friends Dave and Kimbra Quinn, who went to school here at Texas A&M. They were living out in West Texas at the time, and it was about a year after they made their list that I went out to see them. And Dave and I are at the house, the kids are running around, we're drinking cold beer, and I said, hey, where's your list? Go get your list. Let's mark something off your list this weekend. He goes and finds it, brings out this piece of notebook paper, handwritten, and down at the bottom, it said, make chocolate cake for my wife. Now, real quick, here's that backstory. When Dave and Kimber were going to school at Texas A&M, he would make her cake all the time while they were dating. And then after he got married and life got in the way, he stopped doing it. So he wanted to make chocolate cake again for her. And I was like, Dave, let's do this. No, it's been a long week. I don't have a cake mix. We're drinking cold beer. The kids are bop, 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 bop. Excuse. I said, stop. Go to the store, get a cake mix. Let's do this right now. Something clicks in Dave's head, and that's what he did. He ran to the store, got a cake mix, gets home, puts all the ingredients together, slides it in the oven. So when Kimber walks into the house, it smells just like chocolate cake. She goes, what's going on? Dave goes, it was on my list to make you chocolate cake again. And it was almost as if somebody told Kimbra before she got there, they sent her a text or something, because she immediately said, I want to mark something off my life list. I want to eat that chocolate cake on my grandmother's fine china. So that's what we did after dinner that night. We ate homemade chocolate cake on Kimbra's grandmother's fine china. Cool story, right? The cool part about that story is we talked about our lists. We talked about things we wanted to mark off, but most importantly, we talked about how we could help each other mark stuff off our list. 3 things happened around that dining room table. Number 1 is I started to refer to these lists as life lists. They're like a bucket list, but I wanted to put an emphasis on the life, not the death. The definition of a bucket list are things we want to do before we kick the bucket, right? Before we die. We all think we're going to live forever, so we never do those things. And a life list also includes the little things that I mentioned. Double scoop of ice cream, lobster, sell something on Craigslist, etc. The second thing that I did around that dining room table is I turned my life list into a gigantic thank you note to God. I had lived a blessed life to that point. I didn't want to thank him by laying on the couch in my underwear, eating spicy Cheetos, binge watching Netflix. I wanted to live life. And the last thing that I did around that dining room table is I realized the importance of putting our goals, dreams, and aspirations in the spotlight. Make the important things important, right? That's why we're here. Remember my message? You're talking to your boyfriend back home. What are you talking about? Make the important things important. So what I want to do is I want to drive that point home right now. I want to throw some gas on that fire. I'm going to ask everybody to close your eyes for 10 seconds. I know that makes some of you feel uncomfortable. It's only weird if you make it weird. 10 seconds, you're going to close your eyes. And I want you to think, rapid fire, the important things in your life. What's important to you? While you brainstorm, let me say this. What I love about that charge is I can't tell you what's on your list. You have to decide for yourself and put an emphasis on that. Okay, open your eyes. I can make some assumptions of some things that are on your list, and I'm going to do that, but I want to get this out of the way right now. I need you to raise your hand if one of these 3 things were on your list. You ready? TikTok, Instagram, Netflix. Just put your hand up in the air. Oh, dang it, you guys don't understand. If it was on your list, you raise your hand. It's hard for me to see, so get them real high so I can see them. At the top there, no? Good. I'm glad those things aren't on your list, but statistics say otherwise, unfortunately. I think the last statistic I saw, it was 2 hours a day on social media. That's something ridiculous, like 720 hours a year that we spend on social. 30 full days. And for TV, we'll include Netflix and YouTube in that, is even more than that. You said it wasn't important. Statistics say otherwise. I'd just like to bring that up every time I talk to a group. Now, let me make some assumptions of some things that are on your list. Please tell me that air, water, and or food were on your list. Guys, you need those things to live. They are important, okay? If somebody ever asks you again to make a list of important things, feel free to include those things. How about time? Was time on your list? I hope it was. Time's a commodity. We only have so much time every single day, and we only have so much time on this earth. Time is important. This is a pretty safe assumption that you put other people. Maybe it was a very general person, my family or my friends, or maybe it was very specific, my mom, my kids, my spouse, my best friend Susie. Relational joy, very important, right? Now this next one is not an assumption, it's a hope. You don't have to answer because I know the answer. Did you put yourself on that list? A lot of people don't. That's the true epidemic in this country, the lack of self-care and self-love. We were told along the way, somewhere along the way, that it was selfish to make ourselves a priority. But I'm a firm believer that you cannot pour into other people. You cannot be a light for other people until you take care of yourself first. So yes, I stand in front of groups and I say, make the important things important. But I had 3 very important words after that. Make the important things important, starting with you. I'm giving you permission right now, not that you needed my permission, to make yourself a priority. So how do you do that? Normally, when I have more than 18 minutes, I can give you 10 things that you can do. I can give you 20 things you can do, but today I'm going to give you one, and we've already talked about it. Put your goals, dreams, and aspirations in the spotlight. Make a life list. Stop for half a second, clear the mechanism, and think about what's important to me. What do I want to do? Little things, big things. What do I want to eat? Where do I want to go? What do I want to experience? Think about all those important people in your life. What adventures do I want to go on with them? Think about something you failed at before and you want to try again. Think about something that scares the heck out of you. Put that on your list. Make the important things important, starting with you. A life list. Goals, dreams, and aspirations in the spotlight. So we were practicing yesterday, and I showed up I was at 15 minutes. I had 3 minutes to spare. Today I only got 1. So I'm going to give you one more thing you can do. One more thing. So real quick, stop using the word busy too. Please. Because we're lying to ourselves that we're too busy. It's not a busy thing. It's a priority thing. If something is important enough to you, you're going to do it. We throw busy around like a badge of honor. I'm so busy. Like I think that's cool, okay? Take it out of your vocabulary. You can say anything else that you want to say. I say ripping and running. It means the exact same thing. But when you remove that from your vocabulary and you catch yourself about to say it, or you hear somebody else about to say it, it's a reminder. It's not a busy thing. It's a priority thing. Whether it's going to lunch with a best friend, going on a family cruise, or just calling your mom. Have you called your mom? No, I've just been so busy. Make the important things important, starting with you. 3 words. My name is Drew Myers. Not Love Myers, Drew Myers. See ya.